All right, today is January 16, 2020. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. Today on the agenda, we have just the planning session so far. We're going to go over the items that we've committed to as a group for the 1.18 release and get status updates on that. If you have any PRs that need attention, please feel free to add here. And if you have any designs that need attention, please add them here. Anything else, add them to the end of the agenda section here. As a reminder, this meeting is public, recorded, and posted on YouTube. So let's get to it and start getting some status updates. So I'm just going to create a column here for today. Insert column to the left. Status 1/16/2020. All right, so first item that we have is CSI online offline volume expansion for this quarter. It's just fixing a bunch of issues. Hemant, do you want to give an update on this?
Yeah, so one of the things that we are working on, I'm working on is like recovering from Resize failure. I'm working on a cap for it, and I have most of it written down, but there's a issue that like for volume types that are only expandable on the node, like that only have the CSI node expansion support. There's a problem that we don't know the size of we may not know the size of the volume after the resize has happened, because the capacity is optional field in the node expand response. So yeah, that's the problem. And Michelle, I was talking to Michelle and Jan, and I was wondering, I have opened an issue with in the CSI repository for this. Other than that, it looks good. We could, what Michelle was saying was that we could just make the recovery from resize behavior only not supported if the driver does not return size after expansion of the node. That I guess could work. Need to think.
Hemant, the stuff you have written down, is it public somewhere? Can we look at it? Is there a link?
No, I have not. I'll publish it soon. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is Ben. Can you add me as a reviewer, Saad?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that update, Hemant.
And there are some PRs in flight also, like David has been reviewing it. Just you know.
Cool. Okay, next item is recovering from resize failures. I guess that is the second part that you just discussed.
Yeah.
So let's
I didn't
actually.
Should we just lump them both together into the same item?
That actually kind of makes sense. Hemant, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
And what we'll do is just cross this whole section out. All right, next item is support containerized CSI node plugin storage proxy executable. Deep, are you on the line? So the last status update here was slow progress was being made over the holidays, work in progress PRs for disk volume and SMB APIs. Does anybody on the call happen to have an update on storage proxy?
So this is KK. I've started working on the Azure side of things to get a full end-to-end flow through, and there are work in progress PRs I'm working on it. So that's the updated status.
Cool.
So there are a few changes which has come out as part of that effort. So being worked up in the CSI proxy as well.
Perfect. That is exactly what we wanted to happen. Get some implementations out there and figure out what's working and what's not working. Thank you, KK. Next item is snapshots fixing issues for the quarter. Shing or Michelle or Sean, anyone want to give an update on this?
Yeah, so I'm currently working on documentation. And there is also a PR on adding list snapshot secrets. So I will review that one. And we're also working on adding more tests. And then there are a few bug fixes, like create snapshot timeout. So we need to work on those. Zhangchen, you want to add something?
You covered everything. Thanks.
Okay.
Xing, are you tracking the issue that I
Yes,
mentioned?
that's the create. Yeah, that's the create snapshot timeout. That's the one that has the requeue thing, right? That's part of that.
I'm not
Is
sure.
there another one?
I'm not sure. Well, no, it's the one we talked about, but I'm not sure that the timeout is the right way to describe it. What happens is.
Yeah, but I think that's the related issue. So I think I added your, at least I mentioned your issue in that issue, so we can look at them together. But
Okay,
that's the particular one we were looking at right at that point. Yeah, sure.
But fundamentally, the problem is that requeues are no ops because of the way the controller works. So
Yeah,
something needs to change.
Yeah, sure. We can definitely look into that. So maybe we need to restructure the way how the current.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, thank you both. Next item is non-recursive volume ownership FSCrip. I don't believe there's been any progress here. Next item is SE Linux recursive permission handling. Jan?
There is no progress, but I have a meeting next week with Linux guys. What needs to be done?
Cool. Meeting next week with who? Sorry, who was the meeting with, Jan?
Linux guys from Red Hat. Like
okay.
Ben Walsh, this kind of stuff.
Saad, also regarding FSCrip stuff, I think I don't think Jing is going to be able to own this quarter.
Yeah, let's give it until 2 weeks, and if that does look to be the case, we can just remove it for the quarter. Next item is file permission handling for Windows. Deep, any updates on that? I don't think Deep's on the line. Does anybody know? I guess there's no updates considering the focus on the storage proxy. Next item is volume expansion for stateful sets.
So
go ahead, Hemant.
Yeah, the person who wrote the original cap needs to like kind of went like he's not responding anymore. So I don't know. We need to find a new owner for this, I think.
Is there anybody from SIG Apps here that might be interested in helping us find a new owner in SIG Apps for this?
I tried pinging folks who had made some updates in the KEP, but I didn't get any response. But probably next SIG Apps meeting, I'll try to attend and request them if they are interested, and then get back.
Thank you, KK. Next item is CSI entry read-only handling. Chris Duchesne signed up to figure out if there was any work required here. Chris, are you on the line by any chance? It doesn't look like Chris is here. Last status update we had here was Chris was still waiting to identify scope of work. Ben was looking into this in Q4 and believes, although confusing, it may be okay and working as intended. So let's mark it as no update for now. CSI driver, skip attach pod info, moving that to GA. Christian Huffman, any updates?
No updates yet.
Okay. Mark that down as no updates. Next item is improving CSI metrics. So yeah, last time
done, right?
Yeah, we got the external provisioner, attacher, snapshot are done. External resizer was in progress, so external resizer is done as well. So I think we can mark this as done. All right, next item is volume snapshot namespace transfer. So we had no update last time. Is Mike on the line by any chance?
Yeah, no update.
Okay. Next item is CSI Volume Health. Xing, you held a meeting on this week. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so just had a review meeting and had a lot of discussions. We actually didn't finish yet, so we need to schedule another meeting to continue. Just based on the feedback we have from this week's meeting, we need to make some changes on the API part at least. Maybe make this a field in the status of the PVC.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to discuss with Nick about this. So probably we'll need to update the CAP before next review meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Is the follow-up on the calendar yet, or TBD?
No, not yeah, TBD. I just want to determine what to do with this API change first, and then schedule something maybe next week.
Sounds
all right.
Good. Okay, so that is CSI Volume Health. Next item is Volume Group API. Any update on that?
Yeah, still working on the CAP.
Okay. And the next one is storage pool, storage capacity tracking. Update here is there is a meeting on this scheduled for Thursday afternoon Pacific time.
That's today.
Right. And next item is deprecating the CSI, NFS, iSCSI fiber channel and flex drivers. For those of you who don't have a background on this, we wanted to maintain some community-owned CSI drivers, drivers that don't really have a good common home. And what we discovered was very few people offering to help maintain them. So rather than kind of neglect them and have them in a weird, unmaintained state, we've decided to deprecate and archive these repos. Michelle, any updates on
I have not sent out an email yet.
Okay, so
yeah.
let's put that down as the current status. Next one is deprecation of Kubernetes incubator external storage repo. The entire Kubernetes incubator org is being deleted, and so we need to make sure that anything that's important for us in the external storage repo finds a new home. The most important project there, the external provisioner, was moved a while ago, but there are a number of old external provisioners that still live in that directory that need to be moved. If you depend on one of those, please work on this to get those projects moved because they will be deleted soon. Preliminarily, this is assigned to Matt Wong. I'm not sure if Matt is on the line. Update for this week was I opened up a Kubernetes org issue to track the work here. If you have any issues, if there's something that you care about, please feel free to update that bug.
What are the choices for places to move to? I mean, I know we have Kubernetes CSI.
Kubernetes SIGs is the big one that we have an option to move projects to.
When a directory is, or an org is deprecated, Saad, this is Jeff,
Yes.
Is it archived somewhere for a while first, or is it just,
I
what if
believe
there's
they'll
not a
archive
home
it for a while. So I think
Okay.
it's gonna, for at least for this, they're planning to archive it for a while and then delete it.
Makes sense.
All right, so again, warning, if you depend on anything in that external storage repo, please, please, please go take a look at it and help get that moved somewhere. Otherwise, it will be gone. Next item is raw block GA. Jan, any updates on this?
No updates, but I'm slowly testing stuff.
Okay. Next item is CSI migration. The next steps for that. Deep, Chang, or David, or any of you on the line? Anybody able to give a status update on their behalf?
So I know there was a bug around volume deletion, and David has a design plus a couple of PRs out for that, and I think both Jan and Jonathan have been reviewing it.
Perfect.
Other than that, I think the main thing is we need to start pushing all the other cloud providers to get their migration implementations to beta.
Who are those cloud providers?
Azure, OpenStack, and VMware.
Are there any representatives from any of those clouds on this call who are tracking this work?
I can take messages for VMware.
Okay.
Is there a link, a PR or some issue tracking this?
Same here for Azure, Saad. I'll get something like worked out and
Perfect.
update in the next status.
Okay.
Good. In terms of,
I'll sync up with David around like issues tracking it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
I'll take OpenStack, Saad.
Perfect. Thank you, Aaron. So I'll put down status updates here at KK. Azure. Michelle will All right, thank you all. And if you're on the call and you have an entry plugin that is not a cloud provider, know that you're going to be next in line. So I think the next set after cloud providers that we want to do the migration for is going to be the storage vendor volume plugins. And we have a number of entry storage vendor volume plugins. We have Portworx, Cobyte, Storage OS, and a number of others. And so if you are one of those representatives from one of those vendors, start thinking about if you want to do the migration or not. You kind of have two options in hand. One is you could decide that you want to deprecate the entry one and not provide a kind of migration story, or you can decide that you do want to provide a migration story and implement the logic that is required there and work with David, Chang, and Deep on that. All right, next item.
What would be the impact if there was no migration, just to be clear?
It'll break users who were using it, depending on it, once the code is removed.
So that's something we've deemed to be acceptable for certain vendor-provided entry drivers?
Yeah, and I think the reason is basically it's up to the vendor to decide. So for example, Scale.io was deprecated because the authors no longer wanted to support it. And ultimately it's their call.
Okay.
And so in this case, it's up to the vendors if they want to deprecate their old entry plugin. That is an option.
Awesome.
Next item is Object Storage API. Jeff, do you want to give any updates on the status of the KEP here?
Sure, Saad. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, we got some feedback on it, especially appreciative of Andrew at Google's feedback. And I've done a couple of commits to the KEP to incorporate that feedback. Our feeling is that we're going to have to switch to a CSI interface, and John on the team is looking at doing that. I'd like your opinion on, with such a significant change to the KEP, what do you feel I can just make that as a new commit, or do you think it should start more, fresh?
I think it would be perfectly fine to update the existing PR. You can create a new commit. You can, before merge, we'll squash all the commits down, but I think it'd be perfectly fine to do a new commit.
Okay, and so we would also like to have a few review meetings on the KEP to try to get more input on it. And
okay,
does it make sense to schedule that with the SIG storage mailing list?
Yeah, so feel free to use the SIG storage mailing list. Please feel free to use this Zoom call, and just figure out who the stakeholders are and make sure that you can find a time that aligns for all of you, and then go ahead and send out the invite.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
Cool. Thank you, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Next couple items, and in fact, I wanted to move the other SIG Apps item down here as well. Apps. This one. Just group them all together at the bottom. So these are kind of dependencies that we have on our partners in the SIG Apps organization. So addressing issues PVC created by a stateful set will not be auto-removed. So last status here, Dave pinged SIG Apps. They said they come back after the holidays and hopefully give us a status update. Dave, are you on the line by any chance?
He's probably not. He's in all-day meetings today. So I asked him. He said he has already started looking into this.
Okay.
He just he has conflicts, so he couldn't attend the meeting today.
All right, thank you, Xing. And then the next one is execution hook for application snapshot.
Is a sheet online? No, he has been actually working on it. He has 2 PRs out.
Yeah, he's actually in orientation this week.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I know he's been working on it. But I'm not exactly sure what the status is.
Perfect. That sounds like progress to me.
Yeah, he actually talked about this in the SIG Apps meeting.
Nice.
On Monday, yeah. So they suggest him to break his PR into 2. The first one just to cover the API, so he did that.
Okay. All right, that's awesome. Glad to hear. Thank you all for the status updates. Now let's switch back.
Oh, hold on, Saad.
Sorry, go ahead. Did I miss something?
Row 18. I had volunteered to pick this up.
Okay.
This is Ben.
All right, let's uncross that out. All right, let's put your name down here, Ben.
Yeah, so I have a POC code that does this, and I understand I need to write a KEP because the only real change that we're looking for is just a relaxation to the validation that happens in Kube API server. So what is the deadline for the KEP, and how big does the scope need to be?
Deadline for the KEP is, I believe, in like a week or a week and a half.
It's 28th.
28th. There you go.
Tuesday. So it's a week and a little.
Does that mean to have it written by then or to have it approved by then?
It needs to be approved by then.
Okay.
Approved.
So we got to, how long does it take to approve a KEP?
I think it depends on how controversial it is. If it is super controversial with a lot of back and forth, it can take weeks to months, possibly an entire quarter. And if it is something minor, then it can be fairly quick if there's no.
Okay. Yeah. This is going to be one where the scope is going to be extraordinarily small, so there's not much to argue about. It's just a question of to do or not to do.
I think the only question I have for this
Ben.
is, are we ready to do it? Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, this is Sean from. I think, Ben, this is one of the topics we want to discuss in data protection working group as well, right? I'm not sure this is a very small scope. We can.
No, you're right. You're right. There's a huge amount of discussion about what data populators do we want and what form should they take. But the question of should we relax the restrictions on the data source field in the PVC object in Kube API server is that's a very specific, very small issue. And the answer could be we want to open it up wide to whatever and just let the chips fall, or maybe gradually add them one at a time. But that's not really an external data populator. That's just a whitelist of community approved populators. So we need to have that discussion now, I think, and then depending on the outcome of that discussion, it may be easier or harder to actually do individual instances of data populators when we get there. But I already have two different implementations that I'm happy with, so I wanted to get the ball rolling now.
So we need API reviewers for this particular field, because when we added this data source field for a snapshot, we were asked to make it very strict, right? Initially, it was only added for a snapshot.
Yeah.
Purposely, just make it very strict because we don't want to, Kubernetes always want to do validations. They don't want to just allow anything, unknown things, right? And then
so
PVC was added.
I'm going to make the case that we should open it up, and I'm totally prepared for the answer that no way in hell are we going to do that. So, but I'm going to make my best case.
Okay, I think that makes sense. Let's get the KEP out there. Let's discuss it in the data protection work group. Let's aim to get it in before the deadline, and let's let the pieces fall where they may. All right, thanks, Ben. Anything else anybody wanted to talk about on the SIG planning spreadsheet?
Yeah, I think, is it 13? Maybe.
13. Yes. Issues related to volume mount points.
Yeah, I think Jing started looking at this, and also I think some other folks writing CSI drivers have started seeing some issues related to this.
Okay.
So this might be something we still want to keep on tracking, although I'm not sure if Jing's actually going to make make a lot of changes around this.
Okay. Okay, so we'll start tracking this and keep it on our radar. Okay, looks good. Anything else?
Saad, this is Vita.
Yes.
Yeah, can I get the meeting link for the 17th item, the storage pools?
It was sent out to SIG Storage mailing list.
Okay.
So if you are subscribed to that, you should get it automatically.
Sure, I'll go through that, yes.
Cool.
Thank you.
And if you don't find it, just ping me on Slack or something and I can help you.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, let's go back to the agenda doc. I think one miscellaneous item is announce the new data protection work group. Xing, do you want to talk about this? Xing, Sean?
Oh, yes. So the data protection working group is formally approved. We're going to have our first meeting this Friday. What's the time again? Sean, do you remember the time? Is it 1?
Pacific time.
Is it 1 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
So 1 p.m. Pacific time this Friday is the first meeting, and then we will have our regular bi-weekly meetings. In 2 weeks, we will send out the other meeting invite after this. But the first meeting invite is already sent out. There is a mailing list for data protection work group. So if you're interested, just subscribe to that mailing list. I'll add a link there. We also have a Slack channel, which is let me see, what is that?
Data protection.
Yeah, I will add. Yeah, I'll add it. It's a WG data protection with a hyphens in between.
Is all this information on the Kubernetes community page?
It is. It's just we need to update the some of the pages, and some of the links are not right. Like the meeting time, we need to update the meeting time. But there is a Google Doc agenda. That link is correct, so we will have all the updated information there. But then we need to fix all the other things that are not right. Like there is a link to store the videos, things like those. Those are not correct yet, so we need to fix those.
Cool. Thank you. So this is super exciting. It's a joint effort between SIG Storage and SIG Apps to start working on data protection for Kubernetes objects and resources. I'm expecting a lot to come out of this group. If you are familiar with other work groups, CSI itself was a work group and it continues to be one that Michelle is currently running. They meet about 3 times a week. And so there's precedence here for like sub-projects within the SIG that are important and critical and have enough potential behind them. We create work groups to continue to drive those forward. So this is super exciting. That is all I had in terms of announcements. Anything else anybody wanted to talk about today?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. All right, well, you can get almost half an hour back in your day. Thank you very much, and we'll reconvene in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.